How did you get into horse rescue?
My wife grew up with horses. She's loved horses all her life. And so we moved to the States in 1989 from England. And when we were looking around, she'd always wanted to have a horse again. And we found this community, which was an equestrian community. And we moved there. And the first horse that she got was actually a horse that had been treated really badly. But I, with her, got really hooked on the horse as an incredible sentient being. And she started healing horses a few years ago. And then that's what I do every minute that I'm not here doing this.
And how many horses have you helped along the way?
Probably over the last 3 years, it's been close to 100, I would think, that have come in, gone through a program of rehabilitation, and then been found homes. And they come either singly, or one time we had 11 that were found just tied to trees out in the middle of the country with no water and no feed.
Which horses had the most impact on you?
There's one in particular. He's actually one of the ones that we have at home. He's a horse called Brother Bear. And he had been frightened terribly. And I had a particular experience with him when I first met him. That was one of the first times it absolutely changed who I am as a person. He just made me feel something that was so raw, yet so moving. And he ended up, I was leaning over the front of the barn stall, and he put his head over the top of me, put his head on my back, and just almost laid there, just breathing with me. And we did that for about 10 minutes, and one of the most moving experiences I've ever had. He's one of them.
And so how did it change you?
I think it changed me in the way that it changed my thoughts about horses. It made me feel something, I don't know, maybe connected to nature. It was the enormity of nature and what that is, and maybe what we are disregarding in our daily lives. And it made me feel a responsibility.
So tell me how helping out in the barn has helped you in the boardroom.
As I got more involved with the horses, what I started to understand was they were teaching me things about being direct and honest and truthful, because they won't respond otherwise.
Can you give me an example of one experience where you directly took something from the barn to the boardroom?
I've had numerous experiences. You meet with people and you think, how am I going to make this happen? What do I have to do to either convince this person, and this was a particular instance where it was almost like a conflict. And I told to my wife that I had this particular situation with a potentially large client, and she said, well, what would you do if you were trying to communicate with Chief, which is her horse, the horse from the very beginning? And I said, well, the only thing I would know to do with him was to go with honest intention and with utmost respect for where he was right now. Mm-hmm. And she said, why don't you try that? And it's funny because you're trying to think, how do we get done what we need to do, instead of thinking, wait a minute, I've got to have complete empathy for the other side,
right,
before I can move forward.